Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, the program dedicated to sharing timely information about the community hospital that's been taking care of Washington Township Healthcare District residents since it opened in 1958. Washington Hospital Today is provided for the sole purpose of informing residents about healthcare topics and issues that have been covered during community forums, free health and wellness classes, or as part of educational sessions held during the district's open board meetings. This program is one more way that Washington Hospital helps empower you, the residents of the district, by providing information needed to make informed decisions about your health.
Today's presenter is Anna Mazzei. Currently, she is an outpatient dietitian providing education on diabetes and weight management, and has also been a certified diabetes educator for more than 10 years.
Today's talk is about quick meals on a budget, because living in the Bay Area with all that it offers can be a challenge, right? Many patients I have, and this is why I did this, is that seeing patient after patient, they have time and financial constraints. Some people, because of their medical problems, really can't take a long time to shop or stand up and prepare meals. And for whatever reason, they've just lost sort of track on how to put a meal quickly together, right? So that's what we're here today to do, is to figure out how to pick a few foods together and put them together quickly. And of course, we want to make them nutritious. That's my first goal. So my goal today is, of course, to have a balanced, nutritious meal. People might remember this is our plate that we always look at. Half the plate vegetables, a quarter of a 9-inch plate is the protein, and a quarter of the plate is the starch. Your fruit and your milk or yogurt could be a snack or included at the meal. You'll see that today. I tried to keep the carbs around 40 to 60 grams of carb per meal. And I was conscious of calories too, because many patients trying to control their diabetes are also trying to manage their weight. So I kept each meal about 300 to 500 calories. And I tried to also promote types of carbohydrates, types of proteins, and types of fats that promote good health. And when we talk about cooking quickly, we might have to entertain the use of some convenience products, so I had to be conscious of the sodium. The recommendation is not to go over maybe 2,400 milligrams of sodium a day. So I tried to keep the meals about less than 700 milligrams a day. And the prep time, keeping it reasonable, less than 30 minutes. And the average fast food meal is going to run about $5 to $7. So I tried to keep, and of course up from there if you're going to a different restaurant. So I tried to keep the meal less than $5. Some of them came close, just under $5, all right? Because when you cook at home, it's a huge savings. I mean, the average meal might just be, I'm not kidding, like $1.50 to $3 when you cook at home, when you break things down, okay? So the basic budget tips, you've got to plan ahead. And you want to shop when you're feeling good, you have the time. You can go to the big box stores, the Costco's, the Walmart, those kinds of places. They usually find some deals there. Check out their websites. There's apps that you can also get from like Safeway. Check newspapers, mailings, and there's different outlets. Besides the dollar stores, you've got bread outlets, like Oral Wheat has an outlet. I think it's in San Leandro, different places like that. But you know, you got to plan for that and when to go there. What I find myself doing sometimes when I see a sale or a coupon, it's something that I would never buy to begin with. So don't get seduced by that. Oh, that looks good, I'm going to buy that, but you would never use it anyway. So stock up on sale items that you regularly use. And sometimes when they're on sale, check the expiration dates, okay? So I'm a freak about getting the package way in the back when it comes to refrigerated products or anything. I go way in the back and get it. So the other day when I was buying some tofu that I'm going to use for this class, I got one that was like the second in line. I take it home, it's expired, right? So got to go back at 9 o'clock at night, get the other one in the way back, okay? Also, sometimes I've noticed that at the end of the aisles or in the back of the store, they might have these shelves with things that are for sale, like half off, but you got to check the expiration dates because they're trying to move things along, all right? Store brands tend to be a little lower priced. Every one of them has them. Safeway has their signature. Lucky's has Sunnyside, I think. And you should try to buy in bulk. And ideally, when you buy in bulk, it's less expensive because they haven't used a lot of different packaging. But you're going to have to portion out things raw or in the cooked form and freeze it. Okay, now I gave you some websites at the end, last slide, that gives you a link on how to freeze things so you don't lose the quality of the food. Because that's what happens. Air gets trapped in there, you lose the quality, it gets ice on it and so forth. Okay, sometimes you might have to be creative and plan meals around something when it is on sale. You never thought of using artichokes, but now they're on sale. I'm going to try to be creative and use that. Fruit and vegetables and seasons can be lower priced and better for you because they haven't traveled far, all right? So let's take a look at our first and most important meal of the day. Oh, well, that's mine. That's my most important meal of the day. Okay, so our first meal we're going to experiment with here is cottage cheese. Now, with cottage cheese, I'll either get, oh, I haven't had that in a while, I should try that, or I'll get yuck. So I want you to give it a try, right? Cottage cheese comes 2% small curd, large curd. It comes 1% low fat. And again, you want to buy it in larger containers. It comes even lactose free. This is lactate, and this is what I'm using today right here. This recipe, our quick meal, is just a half a cup of cottage cheese, but I'm making a whole cup of cottage cheese because I have a whole cup of pineapple. So the pineapple is packed in its own juice. And I drained it. You can buy canned fruit in heavy syrup and rinse it out if that's on sale for you. That's what you might find at the dollar store. Okay, so if it's not on sale or you have a tight budget, any fruit can work into the diet, okay? You can rinse out the fruit and you remove about 50% of the sugar. All right, so I'm just going to stir in this cottage cheese here. And while I'm doing that, I just want to start my toasting of this sprouted wheat bread. And I'm going to talk about the bread in a minute. So I'm going to mix the cottage cheese up right in here. And of course, peaches, apricots, fresh fruit, apples, anything like that. Now, the interesting thing about cottage cheese, I gave Vida this the other day, our coordinator, and I put some of the sunflower seeds on it, and she goes, "Are these salted sunflower seeds?" And I said, "No, they're roasted and they're unsalted." And she goes, "It tastes salty." And I said, "Cottage cheese happens to be higher in salt." So when I was trying to find a bread to keep it below the level I wanted, less than 700 for a meal, I picked the sprouted wheat bread because it has the least preservatives, and that's why you do have to you probably freeze it, okay, because it can go bad, but it was pretty low in sodium. So that's why I chose that. Interestingly enough, they do have a salt-free cottage cheese, which I might have to say yuck too, because it really did work out for me. And I'm going to sprinkle it with a little cinnamon, but it could have been something different. It could have been cardamom, it could have been nutmeg, clove, something like that, just to make it interesting. Okay, so the bread we're using, they make a few different kinds of bread, this company, Ezekiel, okay? So each slice is 80 calories. The carbs are exactly 15, which we call one carb choice. A good amount of fiber, 3 grams of fiber. And if you look at the ingredients, there's no wheat flour. It's all sprouted, which is not to say you have to use this all the time. When you're looking for a wheat bread, you want to look to see that it says 100% whole wheat, and that means the first ingredient has to be a whole wheat flour or some other whole grain. The serving size could be 1 or 2. But for one serving, it should have at least 2 grams of fiber and less than about 200 milligrams of sodium. And the reason why I'm putting this here is because when we look at the dietary guidelines and the research they've done, people actually get quite a bit of sodium from just the grain products they use throughout the day. So that's why I was kind of focusing in on this when I was breaking down all the recipes. And less than a half a gram of saturated fat, which is typically they're not high in saturated fat. All right? We're going to spread this on the toast right now, and then I'm going to put a little bit of this cottage cheese mix. It would be really interesting to try this bread and another kind of bread, and then check your blood sugar and see the difference like from beginning of the meal to the end, because it's minimally processed. That's what we want to do for people who are trying to control their blood sugar, is to consume minimally processed foods, because the more processed, the more likely it might spike blood sugars, okay? Okay, so what have I got here next is the famous Elvis the Pelvis peanut butter and banana sandwich. Okay, so we're going to correct it. We're not going to be using white bread, right? And we're not going to be frying it in butter after. You know, he must know Paula Dean. Okay, she has diabetes too. Anyway, so I'm going to use an English muffin now, and this is 100% whole wheat English muffin, and this is a store brand one, which is a little less than other more famous brands, I should say. Okay, so we don't have to use a banana. I'm going to, but we don't have to use a banana. We can use sliced apples to make it a little bit interesting too. That makes it a little bit more refreshing, I think. And you can see that peanut butter or nut butters have just taken off, right? Peanut butter is still probably the least expensive. So when we talk about peanut butter, a lot of people are now buying the natural, which actually does not have a legal definition, or old-fashioned, but basically what it's indicating, it's just nuts blended up, and they might add a little salt. Some of the other famous brands that we see out there are, they add a little sugar, they add some hardened fats to keep it together, because you know the old-fashioned or natural does separate. So once you stir it up and put it in the refrigerator, it stays together. So I'm using this unsalted, crunchy peanut butter right here. Okay, so I'm putting in a little vanilla extract. And also, I have found when you buy the bagged apples, which come organic also, they tend to be less expensive. Also, they're just the right size of a tennis ball, which is one carbohydrate choice, or 15 grams of carb. All right, so then you don't have to worry about, oh, is that really 30 grams of carb, 50 grams of carb? Also a 6-inch banana, which are available. I see these really like hormone-fed bananas, it looks like they're huge. And then you see these petite ones, all right? I also wanted to point out to you some of the milks that are available. Not that this is price savings, but I just thought it was interesting. There's one called Fairlife that has a little less carb because they have ultrafiltration processes that get rid of some of the carb. And it is lactose-free also. So to keep these carbs in line today, because I have fruit and the English muffin, I thought I would, you know, also include this, because you've got to have some milk to wash this down with, right? So on my breakdown for the meal, as you can see the carbs, and I have a glass of milk there too. Now this is unsalted, and it's crunchy, so I've got my texture that I like in there. All right. Now I put these apples, I put a little orange juice on them so they wouldn't get brown on us. Okay, so here are some with the banana and the apple on them. All right, there we go. A staple breakfast that people commonly use, of course, is oatmeal. The benefits of oatmeal are related to the kind of fiber that is in it. It's kind of a gummy fiber that helps to lower cholesterol levels. And this is just a generic oatmeal. And people sometimes will use instant oatmeal, which I don't like because it's processed and can spike blood sugars, and some of them have sugar and maple syrup and those kinds of things in it. Also here I have some raisins, of course, in the oatmeal, but we have all kinds of dried fruits now available, right? I cut up dried mango in it the other day. It was very good. And you don't have to just use cinnamon. I put other things on there that you could use to spice it up, okay? But it only takes 2 minutes in the microwave. Okay, so just straight up, half a cup of oatmeal in a bowl like that. Here's one cup of water. So I was thinking, I thought I had pumpkin spice, but I didn't have any pumpkin spice. I think that would be nice in here too. Okay, so we're going to set this for 2 minutes. So to get enough protein here, we want to add the Greek yogurt. So you can put the Greek yogurt on the side with, got some pumpkin seeds. So you could put that in the vanilla yogurt or sprinkle it on top. I noticed that it seems like the sunflower seeds and the pumpkin seeds tend to be the least expensive of the nuts and seeds group. Now you could add a little bit of sugar substitute to this if you wanted. And you know, sugar substitutes are thousands of times sweeter than sugar, some of them. So what you might want to do is to just use a few granules first, right? And I'm just going to, these are some little seasoned sunflower pumpkin seeds. And then here you would have your yogurt on the side. Okay, or you could even put it on top if you wanted to. Okay, it's vanilla Greek yogurt. Or other fruited ones, because they're not that high in carb, because what they've done is the portion isn't that big. They're usually like a 5-ounce portion. They're not, when I was growing up, it was always like an 8-ounce cup of yogurt, okay? Our next dish, of course, is going to be eggs. So eggs do not take that long to cook. totally versatile, an inexpensive source of protein. Besides the quality protein that they have phytochemicals called xanthan and lutein that help to prevent eye disease as we get older, okay? And choline, which helps with memory. And they do have cholesterol that we have to consider, but on those days that you have that egg yolk, maybe that's the day that you do vegetarian foods, okay? Which goes along with today's meal, or you have fish or something like that, which isn't as high in cholesterol. Okay, so what I'm gonna start out with, 1 egg and 1 egg white. And then I'm going to just get some jarred salsa. I'm also gonna spice it up with a little cayenne pepper. I'm adding coriander, which I think gives it some brightness. That is the seed of the cilantro plant. And I'm adding some cumin. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of garlic here. Now the salsa is where you're gonna get some of the salt in there from. And I'm gonna beat it right in there. Okay, I might put a little sprinkle of cheese first and then at the end also. So we're looking at a minute, maybe a minute and minute 10 on this. And I also wanted to mention this. I'm putting this over it so it doesn't splatter. And I put a little hole in it so that it gets, some of the moisture evaporates too, because when you put a plate on it, it's too liquidy. There's condensation. While that's cooking, you could heat this up on the stove over an open flame, right? This is a whole wheat tortilla. So to round this meal out, I've added some grapes to it to make it up to 40 grams of carb. So that is a nice big meal for 40 grams of carb and only 385 calories. Okay, and we're coming out here now with the egg right there. And I might just put a little bit more cheese on there. Okay, and some green onions. And if you wanted to put more sauce on it, you could, okay? Let's talk about getting into lunchtime now and the use of frozen meals. Remember frozen meals from a long time ago? Well, I was not allowed to eat. We didn't even talk about frozen meals in our house. It was just a non-thing because everything was made from scratch. It was looked down upon to eat frozen meals, okay? But now they've changed so much. You have vegetarian types, non-GMO ingredients, lower salt. Some of these companies make 3 different versions. So they just recently came out with these ones called Power Bowls. And they're a little higher protein, a little bit more vegetables. And they also have, I think, more flavor too. And the ingredient list is short. There's not a lot of unknown ingredients. Same with this other one called Simply Steamers, and this is a vegetarian one called Chana Masala. Okay, and this one is chicken adobo, and this is the one we're gonna make. Has anybody tried this riced cauliflower?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you do with it? How did you use it?
Fried rice.
Fried rice? Okay, did you like it? Yes. Okay, so you're taking your normal amount of rice that you're supposed to have, and you're expanding it with this, it's stretching it out. It got popular a few years ago, cauliflower, with adding it to the mashed potatoes, right? And then it took off from there. They also have riced broccoli. I think it's a fantastic idea because what I usually do with these things is that I steam a vegetable and then add it to this so that the vegetable is a little bit more interesting with the sauce, all right? Okay, so I'm using just maybe a half a cup to two-thirds of a cup. Okay, so when you're looking for a frozen meal though, you want to look at this composition, how to select a frozen meal. Similar to what we've done today when I was trying to create these meals for you, all right? So this particular meal here is gonna be about 355 calories. There's about 40-ish grams of carb in the total, which is very reasonable. Protein, 28. That's like having a 3-ounce piece of chicken in here, all right? That's very good. But anyway, so when you're looking at meals, what you wanna do is stay between 300 and 500 calories, carbs maybe 30 to 60. If you're used to having 45 or 60 grams of carb and the meal is only 30, then you add a piece of fruit to it or something like that to increase the carbs. If it's on the higher end of the carbs, maybe you're not gonna have the fruit at your meal, maybe you'll have it as a snack. So you want the total fat to be 30% or less of your calories, saturated fat, less than 4, and protein, at least 15 grams of protein. That's like 2 eggs. And again, the sodium, keeping it less than 600. And they've really done a pretty good job of keeping these down. This is exactly 600. This chana masala is also exactly 600, all right? It can be nutritious. So again, the point of today's talk is about balanced meals, saving some money, making it taste good, and not being as expensive as it would be if you were to dine out. Because that's the fast way to do something. Okay, I'm putting this in now, getting the cauliflower. That's about 1 minute. Okay, this is what's in here. They have a quinoa in here too. They have brown rice and red quinoa, black barley, some chili sauce, roasted pumpkin seeds, okay, and chicken. It looks like there's some kale or spinach in here too. I see corn, I see some beans. Yes. Thank you for reminding me about looking at the serving size, because we know that food manufacturers like to play around to make their product look good. They will tell you the serving size is small, right? And then all the ingredients that are listed are for that serving. But it's not even a decent serving. But vegetables keep you full for quite a bit of time. And that's why we're always trying to encourage people to add those to like lunch and dinner. I think lunch is the longest time people go between lunch and dinner is the longest time people go without eating. Okay, and put this in here too. Now you could add a little Tabasco sauce to this to give it a little charge. I'm gonna just squeeze a little lemon on it to give it a little brightness. Our next recipe is soup's on, and we're gonna do it Italian style, of course. All right, so we have this Italian style noodle soup, but it's gonna be quick. So this is what I've done, and this is why I looked at this. I've gotten like the low sodium chicken broth at the store, gotten the rotisserie chicken, okay, and I just heat up the broth in the microwave in a nice big Pyrex bowl. I skin all the chicken off, put it in there, boil some noodles, put it in. I might just, like spinach, for example, wilts fast. I'll wilt that down in the microwave and put it all together. And you could give it sort of an Italian edge with a little bit of cheddar cheese, like we're doing, Parmesan cheese. I've even added a little sesame seed oil and a drop or two of soy sauce and a little rice vinegar to give it sort of that Asian flair. So there's a lot of things you can do with the broth and this rotisserie chicken too. So those companies have websites. What's in this recipe is fennel. So we used half of this and sliced it up thin. I actually added some red onion too and sauteed that with some carrots. I sliced the carrots thin so they would cook kind of quickly. And then I added garlic, and then we added a can of the diced tomatoes. So we cooked that down, and that's what we have here, okay? So what's supposed to happen is that typically then you would add the broth to this, and then I also have the chicken. This is the shredded chicken that I'm gonna put in the soup. So that rotisserie chicken can be used in the soup, salads, making chicken salad out of it. You can throw it on pasta. It's totally versatile, right? So I shredded that. So then I boiled up some whole wheat penne pasta. Okay, whole wheat penne pasta. And we're gonna also put that in there. And I'm hoping that this starts to get nice and warm. And then I'm also gonna put this in there next. Okay. I kind of like my tomatoes cooked down, but the recipe, it doesn't really tell you to cook it down. I kind of do that. It keeps it a little sweeter. Gets rid of some of that acid. And then I'm going to garnish it with a little bit of this Parmesan cheese and parsley. And then it also asks for a little bit of pesto. Now you can make your own homemade pesto for sure. And it probably is cheaper. So pesto's made out of basil, pine nuts, cheese, garlic, right? But I've seen all kinds of different pesto. They make it out of parsley, walnuts. If you're very creative, this is a great thing to do. So I'm going to mix that in there too now. A teaspoon of that. And then what I wanted to do was serve this up to get enough carb, because 1 cup of soup is going to have noodles, rice, beans, maybe potato. So usually a cup of soup about like this is going to be about 15 grams of carb. So to get it up to increase it to 45 grams of carb, I added some whole grain crackers, about 5 of these, and maybe you'd like to spread some of this soft cheese on there, right? Okay. So it kind of makes a nice balanced meal, and I think that I had also a pear. In theory, to increase it to the right amount of carb that I wanted, you had the nice hot cup of soup, some crackers and cheese, and a pear along to go with it, okay? So that would make a nice balanced meal, and quickly. So what goes good with soup? A sandwich, right? Let's make the sandwich interesting. It's a perfectly nutritious meal to have a sandwich and a piece of fruit, but let's make it interesting. So let's look at some protein sources. Leftover chicken, meat, pork, steak, or something like this, meatloaf. I mean, I'll be making like a pork loin at 9 o'clock at night, and my husband's going, what are you doing? We ate dinner. And I'm saying, I'm not giving you processed meat. I'm gonna let this cool down and slice it up in the morning for you. If you get canned tuna or salmon, canned tuna and salmon can be high in salt. Rinse it out, drain it. Both of these things make great lunches. You can add celery, onions to these things. Once you rinse it out, you could add maybe a little relish or something to it and get your salt that way. There's all kinds of cheeses. So I would get a very sharp kind of cheese. A little, that flavor, that sharpness goes a long way, so you don't need as much, right? And then you can add all of these other different things. You can have pesto. Aioli is a mayonnaise with garlic in it. Maybe a low-fat cream cheese mixed with some sun-dried tomatoes. Tamponade is a chopped up olive. So all kinds of different ideas to go on whatever bread you use. So it could be a pita bread, it could be a high fiber wrap, it could be some sourdough bread here and there, because actually sourdough, because of its fermentation that goes on with it, the bacteria in it seems to help not spike blood sugar as much. So all kinds of ideas to make sandwiches. We don't have to have it so plain, right? So that goes with, of course, soup, or sandwiches, but also salads. Okay, so what we've got here next, I just wanted to show you, is the quickest meal ever. We have these salad kits, okay? Does anybody use these? They have Southwest, they have Mediterranean, Greek, poppy seed, I mean, it's just all kinds, right? So we should have this time, because it's gonna be like a record. So I do this. A lot of the time, too, I don't use the full salad dressing package. I will add a little bit of vinegar or some lemon or lime to something, and then that stretches the salad dressing out. But honestly, if you toss it enough, it's gonna get all nice and wet, okay? Next food demonstration, I need some scissors. All right. My source of protein is black beans. If I get an Asian kit, I add edamame. If I get the Mediterranean one, I add garbanzo beans. I get the low salt, and I even rinse them out. Okay, and I put that in there like that. There's the beans. You could have added the chicken here too. And I cut up some of these Persian cucumbers because you don't really need to peel them. And these are the most expensive tomatoes I've ever bought. But they are always good. They never fail, and they don't go to waste because I'm always going to eat them, okay? So I'm balancing out some inexpensive items with some more expensive items, and I know I'm going to eat these, okay? So here we have now the dressing, which I think is like a cilantro-based dressing. Okay, so I'm just going to stir this up, and I sometimes will add some rice vinegar to this too, or red wine vinegar, like I said, to stretch it out and give it a little extra zing at the end. Or cilantro in this case. I might add some chopped up cilantro. This is so fast to do that and nutritious. Lots of vegetables. I've got my protein in here with the beans. Okay. Okay, so our next dish is going to be a salmon patty. It's a burger, but not a burger. Okay, so you can make your own salmon patties at home with salmon or tuna. I've given you a recipe for that. And what's surprising is that it is a little higher in sodium than I like it to be, but that's why I want you to rinse that salmon out. The original recipe, the sodium was not rinsed out. So I buy these at Costco, and they are a very good price for what you get. It's a 4-ounce wild salmon. It's already cooked. So once you grill it up, you can add it to salads. Of course, you can make a burger. You can make fish tacos, flake it up and add it to pasta. Again, it goes along with like the chicken. So this is Trident brand. Okay, there we go. Frozen and ready to cook. So what I do here is, many times you could put it in like a sandwich thin, hamburger bun, whole wheat hamburger bun. But today I'm going to use a whole wheat pita pocket, because again, I'm trying to show you different breads to use or grains to use. And I mixed some light mayonnaise, not low fat, not regular, light mayonnaise, with a little bit of Dijon mustard and lemon juice to thin it out a little bit. And I would love to have arugula in here, but I forgot the arugula. So I have regular lettuce here and tomato and some onion. Okay, because arugula is extremely flavorful. So it's getting nice and brown right now. I'm going to put the lid on it because I want to kind of get the heat. Like not too much condensation, but I want it to start to get warm inside too. All right. 435 calories, only 45 grams of carb. Perfect. Sodium is less than 700, which is the way I wanted it. But each of these burgers themselves is only 330. So let's talk about fish for a minute and look at all the other sources of omega-3 fatty acids, because people don't like fish a lot. The salmon, the mackerel, herring, sardines. I think it's a good idea to try those things to see if you like them. I am a fan of salmon. So the Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, 2015 dietary guidelines all recommend 2 fish meals a week to get the omega-3 fatty acids you need. Studies really show when people get on the range of maybe 2 grams a day, it's going to help lower your risk of heart disease in a number of ways, just not by cholesterol lowering. Okay, it has a function in the way that your heart rhythm is, lowering inflammation in the body, lowering risk of blood clots. Okay, so if you can't get the salmon, there are some other form of omega-3 fatty acids from plants. It's not as good, but they do have them, things like olive oil, some in walnuts, flaxseed for sure. Okay, some green leafy vegetables have them, but it's really the fish that is potent. Okay, you're gonna put some of the mayonnaise that has lemon in it right in the pocket here, and then a little bit of the tomato and lettuce and onion. Okay, all right, so this is our last dish. Tofu. I've been trying to push it for 30 years of being a dietitian, okay? And finally, I found the answer. I found tofu that is seasoned. So what I'm gonna do is, we took the tofu and we browned it in some ginger and garlic already, okay? And I'm going to add some sesame seed oil, because I love sesame seed oil because it has so much flavor. And I think that, you could do with less soy sauce in a lot of products because you're associating all of those interesting flavors of Asian cooking, and it's not just the soy sauce. All right, so this mixture that I have here with the cornstarch has some chicken broth, sherry, soy sauce in here, some rice wine vinegar, and I dissolved that, okay? And so we browned the tofu, and we cooked it till it got nice and brown, and then over here I'm doing the sesame seed oil, and then I'm gonna cook the broccoli and bell peppers in here. All right, and then add the tofu and some of the sauce after. Garnish it with a little bit of some crushed pepper if you like heat. You could do serrano peppers if you wanted to do that. Lime to give it a little brightness, some green onions, and then some cilantro at the end, okay? I can hear the sizzle, all right. And the red bell pepper. So many options for stir frying. I like to get things brown. I think it really brings out the flavor. It may not be, not charcoal, but definitely brown, okay? I want to add just a little bit of liquid to this. Okay, so now I'm stirring in this cornstarch mixture. And the tofu to warm that through. So I just wanted to show you again that this is about 500 calories. Carbs are a little higher because we have some rice, and the sodium we kept it down because there's not a lot of soy sauce added. Okay, and these are the different websites to go to. The American Diabetes Association has budget meals, all kinds of different categories, whatever you are interested in, okay? The American Heart Association also, they're very conscious of the sodium. Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has a section, if you just type in recipes, they're all going to come up. Mayo Clinic has diabetic, vegetarian, low salt, all kinds of different recipes there too. And then you have the USDA websites. Okay, the SNAP one is Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program that gives you budget ideas. And then I wanted you to look up about freezing foods correctly. So when you buy in bulk and you portion out, it works out for you, okay? So now I'm going to just throw some of these green onions on here. A little cilantro. All right, and actually a little squeeze of lime. Which, I love limes, I mean, they're so bright and fresh on foods. All right.